Yeah. So let me ask you something, because Chris Lavoie lives to irritate me, and I can't drink bourbon during the show. But it's because most legal experts I saw last night said that absolutely the president is on solid legal ground here. That if you go back to Nixon and Johnson and Benjamin Harrison, for God's sakes, in terms of, but the one guy that got caught masturbating, apparently
Jeffrey Toobin, who is an attorney,
right?
Yeah,
but I think
a constitutional scholar.
I think the president is absolutely on solid. I mean, this is all we're hearing is this tantrum now. He can't do this. I mean, from everything I've heard and seen, he absolutely can do this. What do you think?
He absolutely can do it. There's substantial legal precedent for it at not just the federal level, but at state levels as well. And of course, as I heard some people say, the wild card is the Supreme Court, and whether they are so politicized that precedent doesn't matter to them. But under normal circumstances, yes, he's on solid constitutional and legal ground.
And I thought Stephanie Rule, who's the business obviously reporter on MSNBC, she just made a point of saying, because she talks to these CEOs all the time, they are like, hallelujah. I mean, you work, obviously on budgets and on all of this, but she was saying they are beyond, this is the air cover they wanted and needed, right? What the president just did last night. I mean, and it makes sense. They want to make money. It's not political for them. They want employees that aren't out sick all the time. They don't want their workforce wiped out. They want their customers to feel safe. Exactly. They are like, thank you for this, right?
Absolutely right. And yeah, I mean, it was a courageous position, but Joe Biden was never going to get the votes of those people, the anti-vaxxers and the crazies anyway. So I'm not sure it was politically risky, but certainly it was necessary. And when you have a president whose first priority is to protect the health and safety of his or her citizens, he's doing exactly that.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's move to the other big story. Merrick Garland last night announcing the DOJ's case against Texas.
The act is clearly unconstitutional under long-standing Supreme Court precedent. Those precedents hold, in the words of Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that, quote, regardless of whether exceptions are made for particular circumstances, a state may not prohibit any woman from making the ultimate decision to terminate her pregnancy before viability. Texas does not dispute that its statute violates Supreme Court precedent.
So Judy Chu's legislation is out there, and you said, as an original co-sponsor of this legislation, I will proudly vote yes. Abortion is health care. Nearly 50 years of settled law have established reproductive rights in this country. A majority of Americans agree, and a majority of Congress must act. So, but here we are, right? Whether anything you're working on, budget, infrastructure, women's rights, voting rights, it's going to run up against the filibuster in the Senate, isn't it?
It is. And, I looked this up last week, and Paul Waldman mentioned this in the Washington Post this morning. Joe Manchin was elected in 2018 with 290,000 votes.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I just want to make sure West Virginia has a seat at the table. And I've written a column that said, that's all well and good, but that doesn't mean West Virginia gets to decide what everybody eats. And that's what he's doing right now. And it's just, everybody who's elected and sworn into the House or the Senate takes the same oath, and that's to support and to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, which provides for the general welfare of the citizens. That's your first obligation. That's your first priority. It's not the people of West Virginia. And of course, this isn't his fault that the structure set up this way, that he could represent a small number of white, mostly non-urban citizens and have this much power. But along with that power, I think it comes a responsibility to put your power in context and recognize the greater good. And the greater good is not what's necessarily important to West Virginia.
Yeah, well, boy, your colleague Katie Porter went right at him yesterday about his, who knows, his donors, oil and gas lobbyists, big pharma. I don't know, because I look at the polling, Representative, and I don't understand it politically. Do you? Most Americans are for everything you're trying to do, including most West Virginians, in terms of infrastructure. Broadband they desperately need in West Virginia. All of the things that are in there are wildly popular. What is his answer to that?
Yeah, well, I can guarantee Mr. Manchin, Senator Manchin, that if he insists on a bill coming out of the Senate that's 1 trillion or 1.5 trillion in gross spending on all these priorities that we put forward, that he won't get anything because that infrastructure bill is not going to pass. It won't pass the House. Yeah. So he better start paying attention to the reality. We've all been forced to pay attention to the reality that he can kill anything that we want to get done. But he better face the reality that we have some leverage too.
Yeah.
And the House is going to proceed. We're gonna vote a bill out. The president's the Build Back Better Act, and I think that's going to put him under a lot of pressure because he will see that the people in his state want child care, they want senior care, they want to do something about climate change. They're subject to flooding just as much as anyone else, and these are top priorities of his citizens. So, he's got to get over this notion that that the debt is the first. Worrying about the debt is the top priority. It's not.
Yeah.
We can afford to do whatever we think is important for this country.
And as budget chair, it must make you crazy every time they say, "Oh, we can't afford this." And I made the point this week. We just got out of the president. God bless him. Got us out of Afghanistan. How many billions a day is that? And we don't have the money for infrastructure again.
No, we can pay for whatever we think is an important priority for the country. Now, we do have to worry about inflation, but right now, most economists, including Jay Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, says we have plenty of fiscal space left to do what this country needs to have done.
Yeah.
And, in the debate yesterday, some of these Republicans kept talking about, we're leaving this debt to future generations. And I said, well, what do you want to leave to them? You want to leave 100-year-old schools that are falling down? You want to leave highways that are impassable? You want to leave a climate that's not survivable? What kind of legacy are we leaving those future generations if we don't act now to correct some of these deficiencies?
It is amazing as budget chair that they're the ones that are wrong on the math most of the time, and you drink bourbon most of the time, and yet you are always correct on the numbers. It is. And we always appreciate your time. Keep fighting the good fight.
I'm pretty good with proof too.
Yeah.
Yes. Keep fighting the good fight. Thanks so much, Representative. We appreciate it.